ThinkTech on OC16, Hawaii's weekly newscast on things that matter to tech and to Hawaii. I'm your host, Nicole Horry.
And I'm your co-host, Maria Kashem.
One of the great barriers to the expansion of PV in Hawaii is a lack of a viable system that will store solar energy overnight.
In this show, we'll take a look at a promising new storage system developed locally by Joe Saturnia and Island Pacific Energy.
Joe runs Island Pacific Energy, so he knows a lot about solar and storage. He took the time to develop a battery system for his own house, one that keeps the lights on even when the sun isn't shining or the grid is down.
This system is smaller, lighter, and cheaper than other battery systems on the market today, and is therefore promising for PV installations in Hawaii and beyond Hawaii.
Joe invited the press to his house to see the new system, and ThinkTech went along to see what was going on. Here's what we found.
In Hawaii, we're in a unique situation here where we're really going to have the opportunity to lead the world in this. With this setup we have here, it's enough to power the house, which is doing right now. So what happens is we went off grid in the house this morning at like 5 o'clock. Right now it's set up really to work in a grid interactive mode, which means at all times we're connected to the grid normally. And it's used primarily to power the house if the grid goes down. But we can run it in a grid independent mode, which is what we have now, is where I've gone and I've just turned off the grid, so we're powering it exclusively from this. So most of our power right now is actually coming from the roof, which is the PV on the roof, and there's 12 kilowatts on the roof. When we start thinking about battery storage, we're no longer thinking about how much energy do I need to produce, but when do I need to produce it, or more importantly, when do I need to consume it? When we as a company sell PV to customers, we look at their energy bill. We say, okay, you're using 50 kilowatt hours a day. We figure out where they live, put it through our computer models, and it spits out a PV size that we're going to put up on their roof. When you go to battery storage, it changes a little bit, because now it's not just about how much energy you use, but it's when you use it. And the reason I say that is, if you imagine right now it's 9:20 in the morning, and the sun is shining and the PV is producing, and we're making power. And so I can plug in high demand items like the car, which uses 4 kilowatts, and some air conditioning, and maybe the clothes dryer and dishwasher or what have you. And it works because the PV then directly feeds those appliances. If I were to do that, let's say at night when the PV wasn't working, now all of a sudden I've got to have that energy storage, which is our 38.4 kilowatt hours that we have as energy storage. If we're doing high demand items when the sun's not shining, we have to have a lot more storage to do that. If we're doing high demand items only during the day when the PV can generate, our storage demands end up being very, very small. So that's a mentality that's going to change a little bit as we start moving in this direction, because people are going to be thinking, hey, that's my total energy usage is, which is what we're talking about now, but it's really about when do I use my electricity. And this goes along with time of use metering, which is going to eventually come, because it does cost the utility more to produce during certain periods of the day. So it's only fair that we start charging people during peak times for more for their electricity. And then when that comes into play, people are going to start thinking, okay, yeah, I need to change my lifestyle a little bit to make sure that I'm only using electricity at the most efficient times. We've been working on this product for over 2 years. For us, we see this as the next generation. Island Pacific Energy, we're a renewable energy company. We derive most of our revenue right now from PV sales to consumers' homes and to businesses. We also have a portfolio of solar assets that we own and operate, and we sell the power on a power purchase agreement basis to a number of organizations here in Hawaii. But that's where we operate now. But we are an energy company, and we're looking to the future and saying, what's going to happen in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years? Where is it going? And for us, we believe distributed generation is going to be the future. The next time we have some kind of disaster, let's say it's hurricane, tsunami, earthquake, flood, what have you, we could be in a situation where the grid goes down for a number of days. And if you imagine, if the majority of homeowners were generating their electricity distributed on the side of their house as opposed to getting it from the grid, your life isn't going to change that much. If you have an electric car, you'll still be able to drive around. All the food in your refrigerator will stay fresh. You'll still be able to run your air conditioning, dry your clothes, really go about your daily life as normal. You'll be able to get back and forth to work if you had distributed generation and it was in your house. So there's tremendous societal benefits to it as well. We wanted to come out with a product that was easy, very low maintenance, that just worked. And that's what this product is. We talked a little bit about the technology that's on the inside. It's all UL listed standard components that have been out in the industry. The consumer can know that when they buy an Empower system from Island Pacific Energy, they're not buying a proprietary product, but they're buying a product that they know is going to grow with them. And so as battery technology changes, we can change the batteries out in it. As inverter technology changes, we can put new inverters in it. There's enough storage in this particular unit to keep us going forever. So what will happen is it's got enough storage to cover us to the night, get us to the next day, and then when the sun shines, then it gets charged up again. So effectively, if we did lose power for an indefinite period of time, we'd continue to have power here in the household for as long as we need it. Well, this is a 38.4 kilowatt hour battery, and so effectively it would be a house that uses less than, let's say, 15 or 16 kilowatt hours in an overnight period. Which is a lot. This is a 5-bedroom, 5,000 square foot house, and so we have air conditioning and electric car and all that good stuff. So there's 12 kilowatts of solar, and so if you want to go a true off-grid situation, you would size the solar between 25 and maybe 35% greater than what your demand is. So most of us that have solar, when we put it up on our house, we size it to what our usage is, probably 100%. But if you're going to go off-grid, we need to have a little bit extra. We need to have extra for some cloudy days, for the times in the winter when it doesn't generate as much, and so we'd want to be at that number. The benefit to the community, though, being off-grid is that you do have power, so your lifestyle will continue to go when the grid goes down. And like we talked about before, if we can cooperate with the utility and we can send power back to them as they need, we can be a good neighbor, we can be a good customer, and we can actually, as a community, be cooperative to give us the most stable, reliable power on the island. Traditionally, what's happened is that it's been, like I said, a mad science experiment that gets put on the side of your garage, and it's really the early adopters, the techie guys that want to do this, the guys that want to go tinker with it every day, that have it as their hobby. And we want to take it to the masses. We want to take it to the mass market, the consumer, and that's really what this product is about. And Hawaii is the perfect place to do it because with our high electric bills, you can cost justify this more so here than anywhere else in the United States. The enclosures were custom designed and engineered by us, manufactured in the United States, and they were done specifically for the Hawaii market. They're all aluminum with a baked enamel coating, so they're going to last longer than your house. We're never going to rust. They're purposely white, so we keep them cool, so we keep the temperature down, especially in the sunlight. The engineering was done to give us active venting, so as the fans run, it actually sucks air in from the outside and vents the hot air to the outside to continue to keep it cool. There's a number of different settings that we can do here. It's very, very flexible. So we talked about some of the cooperative things we could do with the utility, but what we can also do here is say things like, if we ever go to time of use billing, I only want to connect to the utility from 8 at night to 7 in the morning. And that way we only buy power during the lowest cost times. We can say only connect to the utility if my batteries get below a certain level. Right now I have it programmed to say, look, if the batteries go below 50%, automatically connect back to the utility and start to charge because I don't want the batteries to get too low. But we can customize that. So there's a number of different configurations that we can do there based on the particular user situation. The nice thing about PV is that when you buy PV for your house and you put it on the side of your house, for those of us that have it, once it was there, we never had to go look. You just get the bill every month and you're saving money, and it's almost like it's not there. And we needed to achieve that same level of maintenance with this product, and we think we have. Varies based on the amount of storage that you're going to need to have. This particular model in front of us has a retail cost of $25,000. It starts at $10,000. It goes up by increments of 5. So if you have a smaller sized home, or maybe your needs are just to keep the refrigerator going, so just some basic electronics, the entry level is about $10,000. Useful life, the batteries we expect to get more than 10 years out of, but it all depends upon how much you cycle the battery, how deeply you cycle the battery. If you're just using this on a backup basis, which would the primary use for this product right here in this location, we might get 15 years out of the battery, and we know people that have actually gotten 12, 15 years out of batteries. It all depends on how much you use it. We think with electric generation, we might see the same kind of thing, where instead of being charged for kilowatt hour, you as a consumer might go to a third party, and we would like to be that third party, and we'll say, look, we will give you a device that's going to supply power for your house, and we're not going to charge you per kilowatt hour. We're going to charge you a monthly fee. $400, $200, whatever that is, and it's going to supply you power, and we're going to continue to supply you power as you need it, and that's how you're going to buy it. So it's no longer going to be metered. It's going to be a situation where you're going to pay a flat fee, and it's going to give you what you need. So this particular cabinet houses 17.8 kilowatt continuous ability and can peak up to about 30 kilowatts. So if for some reason you turned on a lot of appliances, we can peak up and we can get to that. This is a reasonable sized home, so you can see it's able to power it without a problem. So we're not talking about just having a small, beach bungalow or something like that. We have 4 inverters inside the unit, and the 4 inverters act in concert, so they're stackable. So depending on how much power the consumer needs, we can put those number of inverters. If you only need, let's say, 4 kilowatts, we can use 1 inverter. If you want to go 8, 2, and we just stack them accordingly. The black box in the middle is our electronics that enables the inverters to communicate together and cooperate and produce the power. And then below we have our load center, and this is how we connect into the utility, connect into the house, and connect into our batteries. It's quiet. You can hear it's powering the whole house. It's not making much noise or any noise at all. It's reliable. It also is fully compatible with other kind of generation systems. So a typical solution for a true off-grid configuration would be what you see here, but we may also have an LP generator next to the unit. So that way, if we have a couple extended days where we don't have sunlight, so we can't recharge the battery, we'd have an LP generator that would automatically kick in, produce power, charge our batteries for us, and get us where we need to be. But the fact that it is configurable and modular, so we can go to multiple types of generation. Let's say you had there's a couple guys on the island have a wind on top of their house. Well, certainly we can just pump wind right onto here, and then that wind energy can come in. So you can combine the wind energy maybe at night with the PV during the day, have an LP generator backup, all these things together, and that's the off-grid solution. So we're seeing that now in places that don't have grid power. You go out to the Big Island, you go out to Maui, those guys that don't have utility power, this is really their only solution. And to date, they've really been hobbling things together to get to where they need to be. With the solutions we have now, you can have a traditional home in a place that doesn't have grid power, and you can have all the amenities that a typical home would have.
This storage system, which Joe calls his mPower Independent Power System, was designed in Hawaii and manufactured on the mainland. It is local and American, and an example of the kind of ingenuity we need to rediscover.
The system was impressive, and so was the process of development. Everyone says that Hawaii is a laboratory for PV, but we often use technology from far away. Wouldn't it be better if we used our own technology? Well, here's a good example: Island Pacific Energy.
This system has great prospects in the local market and on the mainland, and who knows where else. More than that, it shows that Hawaii's solar industry is capable of developing its own best practices and technology.
We wish Joe well in his efforts. He also brought his mPower system to our recent Solar in Hawaii luncheon panel program at the Plaza Club.
We've been waiting for years for a storage system that will allow PV to run around the clock, so mPower could be a real game changer. Let's see what happens.
So right now, as we move into mPower, the time of mPower,
the age of mPower.
The age of mPower. Thank you. There's really no significant alternative, right? I mean, that's the kind of thing that you can be comfortable with.
Not yet.
Yeah.
And but we're going to see it. We're evolving. This is a natural evolution of where we were, and we're going to see some very interesting things over the next 5 years. And that's some of the things that we did with the mPower product, where we specifically addressed it to try and make it as open as possible, so that way we can use different kinds of renewables, we can use different kind of batteries, we can connect in different kind of ways, so that as the technology evolves, as people start to do different things, well, we're going to learn from that, and your mPower product is going to be adaptable to it. We've gotten to the point where I believe about 10% of the total circuits, maybe 50 out of 500, I don't know the exact numbers, circuits, these are electrical circuits around the island, have more PV installed on them, more PV capacity on those circuits than what the minimum daytime load is. And that's a problem, because now you've got a circuit where customers are producing more energy than is being demanded on the circuit. And so now energy is flowing backwards on a circuit that traditionally has not flown back, had traveled backwards before. So we have an issue there. And it's 10% of the circuits, and it's growing fast because we know of the exponential growth we're seeing here in PV installations. So how can we address that now? And a quick way we can address that now is that if you are a consumer in one of these areas and you want to put PV in, you might be having a difficulty going into a circuit that's filled already. Well, how do you solve this? How do we solve this with utility and alleviate any kind of problem? Well, the answer is we put a storage unit like Empower on your house. We make it so you never backfeed electricity to the grid, so that way we're not contributing to this oversubscription onto the grid. You get full storage, so now you're a kind of a willing participant trying to make things better, and you're getting all the benefits of PV because you're using 90% of the PV that you're generating on top of your house, and you get the benefit of backup. So in case the grid goes down, you'll continue to have power in your house.
You know, I would not have anticipated this a few years ago. I mean, I think it occurred to all of us at some point that if you have a system that only works when the sun shines, you need to have storage.
Yeah.
The question was, where was the storage going to be and who was going to control the storage? Just as easily a few years ago, the utility could have decided that it was going to have storage. And there was all this talk about reservoirs or pumped hydro storage,
Yeah.
and big battery installations, that the utility would control. We don't have that. And this is the way it's gone. The way it's gone is now. It's right here. It's what you're talking about at this table. This is what is probably going to, define the way things go forward on storage. The unit that is in your backyard, that unit.
It could. The traditional look from utilities and the scale that we've gone to in the last 30, 40 years in the United States is that this centralized power generation and distribution. And so when people thought even 3, 4 years ago about storage, they thought about big storage, the big pumped hydro. I remember reading about a proposal to fill up Cocoa Crater with water and use that as pumped hydro and so forth
me too,
ago. So those things were all out there, and that was the mindset. The mindset was it has to be big, it has to be scaled, this is how it's going to work, and we're going to need a big state-sponsored type of organization to make this happen. Probably not all that different than the transmission cable that they're talking about now. But in reality, what we're seeing in the marketplace is something very different, where we're seeing a lot of independent, entrepreneurs that want to act cooperatively in their own self-interest, but also in the self-interest of society as well, to provide some of the answers to some of these really difficult questions. And I think that's how we're going to see it, and I think we're going to see a lot more innovation going forward.
And now let's take a look at our ThinkTech calendar of events going forward.
ThinkTech Hawaii streams video and audio for all of our shows live on the internet from 2 to 5 p.m. every weekday afternoon, and we replay them all night long on Ustream.tv. Visit thinktechhawaii.com for our live stream and YouTube links. Raise your awareness on ThinkTech.
October 24th, ThinkTech and the Hawaii Venture Capital Association will present a luncheon panel program at the Plaza Club entitled News Morphosis 3 Online. The program will feature a panel of journalists and publishers from the online news community in Hawaii. You can sign up for these programs on hvca.org.
And now, here's Bill Spencer, president of the Hawaii Venture Capital Association, with this week's Spensation.
So, Bill, you know, although we would have thought that Congress passes a law and it becomes the law of the land, that is, namely the Affordable Care Act, but that's not happening in the case of the Affordable Care Act.
The House of Representatives has spent the year trying to dismantle the Affordable Care Act. They've voted over 40 times to abandon the act. And now, with our budget renewal a couple of weeks away, they have tied the budget to defunding the Affordable Care Act. And so it's really pitting the legislature against the president in a Mexican standoff that really could do tremendous damage to our economy. You know, if the Senate goes along with this, then we have to face a veto, and the government would have to essentially come to a halt until it can get worked out.
It's a continuing constitutional crisis every year, and it seems to spring out of nothing other than politics, one party against the other. And, you know, all this noise about, you know, the Affordable Care Act, fact is that Congress passed it. Now they disregard what they themselves did. I mean, it's like the majority no longer rules. The guys who voted for it no longer count. The process, you know, should be undone this way. We undo what we did before, only, you know, a year ago. I don't understand why these guys do that. They took an oath of office to serve the people of the country, and they're involved in, as you say, shenanigans on so many things. People overseas must laugh at us, but it's much worse than that, is we can't do business. We can't address the problems that we have to face in the 21st century. Congress is dysfunctional, Bill.
It's astonishing that this can go on. You know, there's all this talk at the last election about everybody reaching across the aisle and cooperating, and clearly I've never seen such a polarized legislature. And the guys on the Tea Party side of the aisle seem to just be getting crazier and crazier every day. The kinds of comments they're making in the press.
The president is being neutralized. As a result, for the balance of his term, this president isn't going to be able to get anything done. That's what it looks like. And that's what it looks like the Republicans intend. And hopefully for the next administration, next president will do better. But the threat here, you know, to the country, to the system, to the fundamentals of our form of government, is that people don't respect statutes that are passed by Congress. They themselves are undoing what they themselves did. It's really hard to understand how they think the country can go forward that way.
I think it really reflects, though, the fact that the American people are totally uninvolved.
Yeah.
You know, 46% of eligible voters voted in the last election, which means essentially when you divide that up by party, you've got, you know, 23% of the electorate ignoring the law.
It's going to hurt healthcare, it's going to hurt the people, and it's going to hurt the way we do business. You know, it almost feels like a football game where everybody in the stadium is a spectator. And the players on the field are in a contention over anything. They don't solve problems. So anyway, I mean, here we are. What are we doing about it, Bill? Well, we're saying something to you guys. And when this comes up, you know, when the issue is raised at the next election, you should take it into consideration on who you vote for in Congress.
And at least vote. Get out there and vote.
Yeah,
Don't be ambivalent.
make it count. Thank you, Bill, I guess.
We'll be right back to wrap up this week's edition of ThinkTech. But first, we want to thank our underwriters.
Hawaiian Electric Company and its affiliates Maui Electric and Hawaii Electric Light Company on Hawaii Island are deeply committed to the communities they serve.
Galen Ho is the Senior Executive of BAE Systems, a global defense, security, and aerospace company.
The High Tech Development Corporation, the state's leading technology agency attached to the Department of Business, Economic Development, and Tourism.
Castle & Coke Hawaii, with a time-honored legacy that spans more than 160 years and revolves around its mission of investing in Hawaii, creating communities, and providing for the needs of our state.
Hawaii Gas, formerly the Gas Company, a proponent of the Liquefied Natural Gas Initiative, helping Hawaii achieve its transition to clean energy and a better energy future.
Collateral Analytics, a Hawaii-based tech company empowering the real estate industry with greater and faster access to the tools and data they need to make better informed property investment decisions.
The Foreign Trade Zone, operated by the Department of Business, Economic Development, and Tourism, encourages international trade in Hawaii and brings the benefits of the Foreign Trade Zone program to Hawaii businesses and entrepreneurs.
Okay, Maria, that wraps up this week's edition of ThinkTech. Remember, you can watch ThinkTech on OC16 several times every week. Can't get enough of it, just like Jay Fidel does. For additional times, check out OC16.tv.
Totally, Nicole. For lots more ThinkTech videos and for underwriting and sponsorship opportunities on ThinkTech on OC16, visit ThinkTechHawaii.com, be a sponsor or a volunteer, and help us reach Hawaii.
I'm Nicole Horry. Thanks so much for joining us on ThinkTech. You can watch the show throughout the week and tune in next Sunday evening for our next important weekly episode. Aloha, everyone.
I'm Maria Kashem. See you next time.